Hey guys, this is my chapter 3, reflection on crying in H-Mart. How would you explain this to someone who has not read it? I would explain this by, it starts with a comparison of Korea, where she visits with her mother when her father's in Oregon. It's like a comparison between Korea and Eugene, where she lives on a 7-acre, nobody near her land, versus Korea, where she's in an apartment full of all of her loved ones. And she even the author states that you can't even walk around without bumping into somebody. So very different perspectives on that. The author includes times that her and her mother were, quote, children together when they were scavenging through the fridge and stuff. And she also brings up the reason that she doesn't like her grandma, or she's intimidated and scared by her grandma, is because of poop needle. That was kind of concerning. I did read that. But her grandma does end up passing away at the end of this chapter, unfortunately, and the entire book is about her mother passing away. So I feel like the reference to her grandmother passing away was kind of a comparison of my mother's mom passed away and now my mother passed away. Who are the people or main characters? The author, her father's just briefly mentioned, her mother, and the author's mother's extended family, specifically an emphasis on her grandmother. What happens, or the plot. She's in Korea with her mother and reminiscing on the smells around her, as well as the supermarket down the street, and times that she would drink banana milk with her cousin. She sees her mother and grandmother's relationship and longs for the relationship that they have, which I do think they end up forming, and longs for the comfort that her mother deserved after her grandmother passed. When did the events occur? She says when she was about 12 years old is kind of the time that she remembered at the play and everything. So I'm gonna base it off of 12 years old. It's in Seoul, Korea. Why is the story told in this way? I believe it's told in this way to include an emphasis on the detail when her mother was alive and how everything seemed perfect, and she just is reminiscing on all of these details and instances that happened when her mother was alive. How/why is the author using language or literary devices? The author is using language such as past tense, my mother did this, my mother was this, to pull back that emphasis on my mother is past and I'm reminiscing on these details about my mother. How/why does the structure/form of the text reveal itself to the audience in this way? It is revealed in this way because she's reminiscing on the past with her mother and remembering the importance of the time they spent together. What themes do I see emerging? I see the theme of remembrance. I'm using remember a lot, but that's kind of what the whole book is about. I see the theme of remembrance and a souvenir of memory that the author has. How are you as a reader making sense of things? I am personally making sense of things by feeling sorrow, more and more sorrow by the time each chapter goes by. It's just hard, and I couldn't imagine. I like to put myself in her shoes, and that's just something that I couldn't imagine going through. How does this connect to the concept of theories we've discussed in class? I think this one really connects with media res right now, because she is explaining the middle of her mother's life rather than starting from the beginning. My mother was born here in this date, and she's starting from the middle of her mother's life, which was the most important time when she was there, and she's kind of going forward from there, but she does tend to come back. What does this reading teach you about stories and storytelling more generally? This specific reading teaches me more about storytelling more generally by the way the description of details is included. I think the description of details in this story is outstanding. Everything that she describes I can imagine without a doubt. Is the story effective? How? Why? Yes, the story is effective. The language and the devices the author is using allows to feel more emotions being shown through the book. I do think about the time I have with my mom and how important it is to cherish memories we do have and will continue to make. While reflecting on this book, that's a really big reflection I like to take personally because, again, this is hard. This is a hard topic to talk about. I can't imagine where I would be without my mother. and where I will be with my mother. And so I couldn't even imagine, like, not having her there with me for important steps. And, like, the author isn't even married yet. She won't even be at her wedding. And that's a big thing that I like to think about.